Dionne Warwick at 84 admits, "He was the only man who could do that to me." Dionne Warwick, born Marie Dionne Warwick on December 12, 1940, in East Orange, New Jersey, grew up with music interwoven into everyday life. Dionne's mother, Lee Drinkard Warwick, served as the manager of the gospel singing group known as the Drinkard Singers, who were among the most respected gospel singing groups at that time. Dionne's father, Manel Warwick, worked as a breadwinner and, at the same time, maintained a deep love for music and the arts. From a very young age, Dionne was exposed to rich vocal talent, fervent worship, and African-American gospel music traditions. Dionne Warwick came from a family that highly valued faith, strength, and community. Dionne's family lived with music at every turn. Dionne's family members were very much immersed within the gospel music scene. Dionne, with her sister Dee Dee and her aunt Houston, formed a gospel music group composed solely of females, naming it the Gospelaries. Dionne's emotions and experiences within this group were vital for her as it marked her entrance into show business and exposed her talent and distinctive voice. Dionne Warwick traces her family steps from among some of the greatest voices ever seen. Dionne's family reconstructed very successful and towering voices within society. Dionne's family consisted of some among the greatest voices ever seen. Dionne's highly successful and beautiful cousin Dionne belongs to an incomparable voice artist in Dionne's life. Dionne's family married within successful music careers. Dionne's family included Dionne's highly successful and talented Aunt Dionne Dee Warwick. Dionne's family members included Dionne's beautiful Aunt Dionne Horton. Dionne's family included highly successful Dionne WX 3 Dionne. Dionne's family included highly successful and talented Dionne met with young composer Burt Bacharach and lyricist Hal David in the early 1960s. Together, they formed a partnership that would be remembered as one of the greatest in music. Bacharach was immediately struck with Dionne's singing accuracy and her talent for expressing nuanced emotions. It was with Hal David's emotive lyrics that they were able to compose songs that showcased Dionne's special talents, an aptitude for combining sophistication with warmth and vulnerable emotions with confidence. Dionne's first hit single, Don't Make Me Over, 1962, marked the start of Dionne's successful life, which would eventually reshape pop and soul music. Dionne's 1960s were her glorious years with hits like Walk On By, Anyone Who Had a Heart, Message to Michael, I Say a Little Prayer, and Do You Know the Way to San Jose? Dionne's hits were more than mere hits on various music stations. Rather, they were defining moments that epitomized elegance and accessibility, making Dionne Warwick a prominent female vocalist in her generation. Dionne Warwick's career boasts hits not quantified by mere numbers, but timeless music. Dionne, with more than 100 million records sold and more than 50 hits on Billboard charts, created something that very few could measure. Dionne's smooth mezzo-soprano voice possessed an unparalleled emotive appeal, as if with every song, they were expressing something intimately and yet something universal. Dionne continued with developments within the ever-changing world of mainstream music. She signed with Warner Bros. Records and eventually with Arista Records, which marked a significant comeback under the tutelage of Clive Davis. Songs such as I'll Never Love This Way Again and Deja Vu marked her resurgence with additional Grammy Awards, and Dionne continued to prove her relevance within the cutthroat music industry. Dionne's brightest moment within her illustrious career emerged in 1985, as she teamed up with Elton John, Gladys Knight, and Stevie Wonder for That's What Friends Are For. Set out as yet another collaboration, it instead escalated into an anthem for humanity as it redirected its proceeds towards research for AIDS. Not only did it hit the charts at #1, but it also depicted a side of Dionne as an artist as well as an altruistic being. It will be remembered as an iconic moment within the AIDS movement, as it marked Dionne as more than just a product within an industry. Continuing with Dionne's list of collaborations, it reads like a roll call of music royalty. Whether it was working with Isaac Hayes and Smokey Robinson, or singing with Luther Vandross and Jeffrey Osborne, Dionne's voice perfectly harmonized with those of her collaborators without sacrificing her own unique voice. Dionne acted as an act-binding artist and genre after artist and genre. Moreover, aside from Dionne's impressive contribution as an artist, Dionne Warwick has consistently ensured that her fame goes for the greater good. Dionne has played an active role as a humanitarian and philanthropist, using her voice for global causes. Dionne was named as a United Nations Global Ambassador for the Food and Agriculture Organization, FAO, in 2002. Dionne took on the role seriously, traveling across the world, spreading awareness about hunger and food security, particularly among developing nations. Dionne became a source of hope for people from disadvantaged communities. She made it clear that, with her celebrity status, something good could be accomplished. Dionne's list of humanitarian pursuits would include fighting against the stigma associated with people suffering from AIDS/STDs, racism, and people who suffer from poverty. Dionne's That's What Friends Are For may be remembered as an inspiration on how Dionne brought people together with music. However, Dionne made it a point that it would not be remembered as an end, but as a beginning. Dionne conveyed that beyond her golden voice and talent as an artist, Dionne also stood as a woman with a sense of moral duty. Despite the changes that music tastes were taking with the onset of the 1990s and 2000s, Dionne Warwick still made an impact. She continued touring and recording music with sold-out shows and new albums. This enabled her to introduce her skill and talent for music to a younger audience. Although her phrasing and interpretation skills were impressive, her music still touched on emotions. Dionne Warwick married William Elliott, an actor and drummer, in 1966. At the time, it seemed that there would be publicity surrounding a relationship involving William Elliott and a soon-to-be household name with big hits composed by Burt Bacharach and Hal David. However, it would not be just that. William Elliott, too, had talent and fame as a jazz drummer and occasional actor. Their interest and commonality in music and the entertainment industry initially brought them together. Nonetheless, as with most young couples who find it hard to separate life and emotions with fame and careers, theirs too had problems early on. Only a year after, in May 1967, they divorced. However, it didn't end there. Despite all the tensions that made up for their first split, they realized that it might be too soon to completely let go. After some terms were made for a reunion, they opted to have a fresh start with a renewed commitment and an iron will to hold on. And so, they remarried. In an act so sweet and so loving, they made sure that they would have an even more beautiful and fabulous start with a remarriage ceremony they attended in August 1967 at the magnificent city of Milan, Italy. It might be known as one of the leaders and biggest capitals of world fashion. But more stunning and astounding would be its role as the remarriage site for these two beautiful people. Their family life gradually began to develop over the next several years. It was on January 18, 1969, while residing in East Orange, New Jersey, that Dionne Warwick experienced one of the happiest experiences of her life as she brought forth the firstborn son, David Elliott. David's entry meant that a new chapter had begun for Warwick. Although life as an international star meant that her schedule included extremely demanding commitments, motherhood meant much to her as it came with unending love and devotion. Residing in East Orange at this stage, it marked a location for Dionne, as it meant that life there would be an attempt at balancing an atypical career as an international singing sensation with that of being a mother. David would eventually follow suit and forge ahead with an artistic career as he began drifting into music and eventually became a drummer and vocalist as well. A few years passed, and then, in 1973, there was yet another addition to the family as Cindy Warwick welcomed yet another son, Damon Elliott. Now, with Damon, there were two